Hello, everybody. So nice to see you. Happy Friday. So sorry that we weren't able to go live yesterday. I was busy reviewing funding grants and just got caught up with that. That stuff is really important in order to be able to give businesses the money they deserve and really talk about their strategies. So today, I'm excited to be able to talk a little bit about and bring some of that information into this live about kind of AI versus reality and just looking at the AI strategies as well. So I think it will be a great opportunity to do so. So let me see if I can stick the topic up here, which is AI versus reality. Okay. I think that I did it. Did I? Nope, didn't do it. Oh, did I? Is there a little sticker? Let me know if you can see it in the chat here. Let's see. Let's put topic in front of it. You guys are just watching me iterate and innovate in real time, which is just amazing. What a gift. So I hope that you can see this. If you cannot, that is, I've done the best that I can. So it's the best I can do. So anywho, we're going to love the evolution. Absolutely. We're going to do what we do best, which is telling the truth and talking about actual strategies that are going to get businesses. You see it? Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. What? You guys, this is a big moment for me. My team has wanted me to do this, just so you know, for like at least 3 months now, and this is the first time I've been able to do it. So yes, topic, AI versus reality, so you kind of know what we're talking about when people come into the live. That said, let's talk about format just real quick, because I just want to remind you, this is always about what you guys want to talk about as opposed to, the topics that we put up here. So I encourage you to ask questions, to join the conversations. If you've been on our live before, you know that a lot of times we have subject matter experts that will join in the chat and they can give information as well. For example, we have a lot of cybersecurity people. Cybersecurity is not something that we do as just a standalone service or implementation. So it's always great to have that. Or if you're system specific, I invite you to share. Or if you disagree with me a little bit, then absolutely do that too, because it's not so much about what I say, right? It's about what strategy is going to work for your business. Each technology business or technology strategy is as unique as the DNA of the business. So it has to be diagnostic. That's why a lot of times I fight back against vendors that are like, oh, we have this templated approach. And it's like, okay, great. You did this 10 years ago for someone who wasn't even on my version. That's a risk to me that I didn't even have the opportunity of knowing about. So I already see questions coming in. So let's get to it, right? If you haven't met me, I always forget to do an intro. I'm Kyler Cheatham. I'm a partner at The Confluential, which is a solution architecture firm that focuses on heavy industry. So mining, metals, complex manufacturing, biopharma, all of those different things where we can't put things back together that we manufacture. Fantastic use of buzzwords. Thank you. Appreciate that on a Friday morning. Let's see. Can you tell us a little bit about why this topic is so important, especially now? Well, I think a lot of times, and this happened a lot in the funding I was reviewing yesterday, is there has to be a level of innovation meets execution, right? And so should we sit here and get so obsessed with AI when I talked to a client yesterday that had a failed digital transformation, and then all of a sudden they wanted to plop agents just on top of that, thinking it would fix any sort of data disparity or anything like that, which it might in a section of which you could leverage an AI agent to help you organize data, but it's certainly not going to fix anything, right? It could certainly help you be more efficient, get better, all of those different things. But we have to understand where AI or business intelligence or quality assurance meets reality. So that's why it's especially important. I think a lot of times we don't understand where we are as an organization, we understand where we want to be, right? We want to be using AI, even if we don't exactly know what that means, right? I talked to a colleague yesterday who is incredibly smart. She owns, a healthcare business and all of those different things. She's some people I go to a lot of times if I have a new business idea, but she was like, I just don't know what we should be doing with AI. And that's the common theme, right? And I'm over here like generative AI, talking about automation. Are we talking about predictive analytics? What are you trying to do? And she's like, I don't even know, right? You can't just drop AI into a current system. It will just be chaos. Absolutely. You need to be able to do that. Let's see. How many orgs are actually using AI and adding value? I would say many. I think the thing that I see a lot of times with that is that they don't understand what AI they already have, right? They'll come into a discussion and they'll be like, we got to have, AI agents and all these different things. It's like, okay, well, you don't need to buy anything to do that. You have that in your existing system. Like this artificial intelligence piece where it flags expense reports. That's artificial intelligence. And they're like, no, not that kind. I want like the robots chasing everybody around the shop floor. And it's like, okay, well, you do have a lot of AI and it is adding value. You just don't have it in the same time that you're seeing on the floor at CES, right? AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be poorly designed and not right tool for the job. And I think to pick up on that a little bit, it's absolutely a tool. And I like that you said poorly designed, right? Because we've had this kind of launch of AI startups, which I think is awesome, right? I heavily am invested in funding the startup community. I think that's where we block all of these, or give competition to these massive big organizations that lock you in to picking what makes them profitable from a technology standpoint. And these littler companies are coming up with innovations to combat that. So I think it's wildly important that we support these. But I also think that we have to be honest about what we're designing from an AI standpoint. I talked to an AI company just a few, weeks ago, and they were like, hey, we can do anything, we can design on anything, and all of that's cool, but like, what do you actually build on? And it took me 30 minutes to know that they actually build on Azure, which is no problem, right? Like that's not a problem, but you need to be upfront with that so that we're not buying things. I've seen this happen with a lot of like industry agents, right? That have come up and been like, hey, I do this for finance. I do this for, and maybe they do, right? But you need to do the due diligence and vet them, right? Let's see. We're talking about requirements. This live is perfect timing for me. Sometimes they go away. I'm sorry. Right before I go into my AI governance council meeting. Yay. I'm so happy to hear that. And governance is so important, and your governance is so important, not somebody else's or what your neighbor does or, what somebody wants you to do. And that's a big analysis that needs to go into that piece. What types of tasks should AI be involved in? The boring kind, right? The kind that people don't think are super innovative to be involved in, especially agents, right? So something like we send invoices on Wednesdays, and that workflow can be automated, and one agent can send the invoices. One agent can be triggered to flag an invoice that's over $1 million, right? Like all of these different pieces are what agents should be doing, but they cannot be effective unless you map those workflows. The answer is building an AI native humans in the loop system. I'd love to know what you mean by that, like AI native. Hi, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you all for being here this morning. Maybe this is a good time for us. Maybe it's a good time. As in, like defining the requirements for the tool that can be developed. Open source AI will be the great equalizer. Let's see, transparency and lost that. Will be key. What types of governance needs to be in place? I think when we talk about governance specifically, this is often a misunderstood topic because people think it's something that, you can come in and implement in the organization. An outside person can do that. And they absolutely can help with that. Don't get me wrong. But until you do the analysis of like what your processes are and where your data is, then there's nobody can help you. And it's okay to go to an outside source and be like, hey, I don't know so much where my data is. That's actually so much easier if people are just like, hey, we need some help here. But we don't give other people access to our data, right? We don't give people keys to our house. We don't, do all of those different things. So when we look at governance, it comes down to what do we do on a daily basis and how do we keep AI safe and compliant within our organizations, right? Especially if you're in a heavily regulated organization. I'm pretty sure AI with LLM can do any phone job now. Do you mean like call center jobs? What do you mean by phone job? So let's see. 100% workflows and automation and low-hanging stuff, right? Again, the boring pieces, right? You can set up guardrails to make sure the AI responses don't create biases, more mean responses. Absolutely. But you also have to understand within your governance overall strategy that AI hallucinates all the time, right? We see it every single day, right? It literally makes things up the entire time. I think I saw a TikTok yesterday where someone was using, an AI platform and they skipped all of those different things. They really like invested in the interoperability and all of those different pieces. And then they gave them fake data for 6 months. And, nobody's ever talked about it since. And so that's an extreme example. I always give like the Copilot blackmailing employees example, which I'm happy to do here if you want to hear the story. But I also think that when we go into these situations, those are edge cases, but we see hallucinations all the time, especially when we don't have an engaged operator. So for us, like on the predictive manufacturing side, our agent might say, hey, we there's a part for this machine in, row 7, bin 10. And it's like, it's actually not there, right? It's not physically there. And it's using the forecasting data of it was there last month and the month before and the month before by filling in the gaps, right? That's what it's going to do. And you have to be like totally aware of that and not be surprised by it, right? Let's see. Let's see, what part of your, yes, call center, cold calling, anything that needs, I think, call setup, right? Sorry about the character count. Like it sucks so bad sometimes when you guys kind of, so, I agree. A lot of those things can be done. Set up RAG2 can help, absolutely. Let's see. We're having a little back and forth about the customer experience with calls, which is awesome, right? We always have this back and forth in the comments, which is the point, right? Because it's going to work for some people. It's not going to work for everyone, right? Why do AI pilots rarely make it to production? Most of the time because people, one, think that this is going to be, they're removing people from the process, which they might be moving people, shifting resources. But if you go in with the mindset of this technology is going to take seats from my organization without, understanding its output and the ability to do that first, then that's a huge problem, right? So you're certainly going to lose a lot of money and definitely hire people back usually. I think the other piece of that is when you go into an AI pilot, are you setting it up to be successful by being able to track the certain KPIs that you're wanting? Oh, and by the way, did you listen to your frontline staff? Or are you just dropping this on them so you can tell the board, hey, we've got AI, we're good to go. And the frontline staff is now creating workarounds so that they don't have to work with machines, right? So let's see, not true. Let's see. AI can do customer experience. Let's see. Capturing frequent asked questions. A lot of times those talk tracks are something that AI can do, especially in chatbot formats, which a lot of people have gone to that type of thing. Let's see. I talked with Maya and it can do needs analysis, set appointments, etc. Yeah, chatbots, absolutely. I have some things to explain that can't fit into the test box. Can I request to speak real quick? We don't allow people on the lives quite yet. We're coming up with a process for that. You can imagine that a lot of people want to speak on the lives, and we just want to make sure that the quality is pure. I'm sure you're very smart and you can absolutely do that. But if you set up some time to talk with me in person so I can kind of vet that, then we absolutely can set up some times. So definitely something that I'd love to hear more about. Let's see. I'd worry about turning predictive tools loose alone on scheduling. Needs analysis. Depends. Hi. Oh no, y'all are meeting early. It's only 2 p.m. in the UK and I'm in the office. Just take a late lunch, right? It's Friday. Come on. You Europeans do that all the time. My European colleagues, right? I don't even see them in the summer months. And I love that for them. And don't even get me started on Spain and their siestas, right? Which I also deeply support, right? Canadians. Depends on if it's a wrapper over an API or it's intentionally designed and refined. Let's see. Let's do some. The prodigal son returns. Hi, Andrew. I was just thinking about you the other day. I'm like, where has he been? Can we just carry out our day-to-day normal and tell the CEO we implemented AI? I wish we could do that. And that's really honestly how it should be, right? Or at least like when we have an executive sponsor for these types of things, they go into the board meeting and act as that and be like, hey, this is what's going on with my team and blah, blah. And the CEO should have very little involvement with the day-to-day implementations of AI. And that is where we really want to get to. But unfortunately, the board pressures the CEO comes to the board, the CIO then goes to the tech team. The tech team says, well, I'm sorry, sir, we have a 30-year-old green screen. What are you wanting us to do with that? Because you won't fund any sort of infrastructure expansion or development. So what would you like us to do? Oh, we'll just pop agents around it. Oh, and we found this new startup that we're going to do that in, 5 minutes and all of those different things. And then the tech team is like, this is going to go poorly, but I have no other choice, right? So let's see. I derailed the live to ERP Snark. Mostly it's the vendors. It's not you guys. It's the vendors, but as always, like just for, our LinkedIn lives, I'm so protective of this community, which is why I don't take any advertising dollars that people try and throw at me. I'm not interested in that at all. What I'm interested in is a community that's going to be supportive. I know we have a lot of smart people in here, and I'd love to, start to have you guys on the lives because I think a lot of you have so much to bring to the table, right? More than outside my expertise, right? But I do love ERP Snark, so feel free to drop that in the comments. Absolutely. Which ERP system do you hate the most? There you go. Dropped it. What's the biggest value add use case for AI at an enterprise level? I think the biggest value add, and this is kind of like a non-answer, is mapping your processes. If you have done that disciplined, healthy business work, right, that you have there's a couple of different things that we can do with that. One, you're now armed with the information that the vendor cannot take away from you. You're now an informed buyer as opposed to them profiting off of your confusion because they'll be able to sniff that out in 1 second. Two, right? You're absolutely going to see more value from agents that you place on processes that you've already mapped because your operators understand them and are able to flag any sort of drift or any issue with the agents, right? So like the call center example, if we know, right, the customer journey of when they call in, they say my vacuum's broken, what should I do with my vacuum? Well, that then gets routed to technical support and there was no human needed in there because we were able to use, voice analysis to hear what they were doing. And now it's going to the technical support team. That's an agent right there. And the technical support or, whatever support to fix the vacuum is going to be a value add in that process. It's faster. It's better for the customer, all of those different things. He'll eventually ask why he's paying you. That's so funny. Let's see. Had lunch, but I'm not going to say that. Oh my gosh, no green screens. I forgot that really triggers you. Turmoil and whatnot in my busy season, projects, updates, construction. Well, tell us what's happening. Yeah. in COBOL. So our CEO loves to talk about COBOL because everybody always wants to look for talent in it. It's like that doesn't exist anymore, right? Like that's like asking, can I have a copywriter that writes in cursive, right? Like it just does not exist, right? So we're using internal access to our data and let the business query note. Side note, is there a Discord where everyone hangs out and trauma bonds? I'm an ERP dev. I don't have anything like that yet, but I do really want to establish it. So if you have suggestions, again, my TikTok is just a happy accident. I'm just a normal person, right, that does this for a living, and it has a firm, that was built out on what I wanted to build it out, which was just integrity. Like we don't take vendor money in any way, shape, or form as a firm because it taints our recommendations. And though we work with our colleagues a lot, it's not something that I believe in the community of doing good business in technology, and that businesses deserve that. So I'd love to know like what else you guys would like to see. Biggest value from AI is replacing the leadership team with AI. I love that we've really moved. I've heard that like 3 times this week, which is great, right? Let's ask the important questions. Is Copilot changing the game like it's marketed? No, absolutely not. It's not changing the game. I think the thing that Copilot has, right, is that it has an incumbent marketplace, right? So it has Microsoft, and if you're a Microsoft shop, a lot of times it's being explained as like, hey, if we just implement this, it's safe because it works on Microsoft, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Oh, and everyone that needs an office or that has an office license needs a Copilot license, and that's going to be our AI strategy. Seen tons of those emails go out, even from our clients, to say like, it's Copilot or nothing, and that just wildly it doesn't make a ton of sense, right? Let's see. Found out we use NetSuite too, or accounting does. That would make sense, right? Like, so we have a partner that's a NetSuite integrator, and they do the NBA teams. So a lot of NetSuite is in kind of sports that we talked about. So it mostly is for a financial system, right? But NetSuite is considered an ERP system. It's just typically on the smaller side, and it's for very finance heavy. But I think it would be a good fit for like a venue like you have, right? So no, corps don't know how to use AI effectively. 100%. I couldn't agree with that more. Most don't, right? Do you pre-seed into non-AI companies? Not typically, right? So I SaaS is my pre-seed. So if it doesn't have to be AI, but typically we have lots of talks about AI so SaaS is my expertise in that. So yeah, real money is knowing COBOL. Legit good money. I absolutely agree with you because nobody knows it, right? So if you know it, you are irreplaceable, right? Implementing AI needs a role that works across teams to help users use said AI tools and systems. And so how would you recommend doing that? And I think that's so true, but so hard for people to execute on. Like a lot of the pre-seed funding I was looking at yesterday, or even early seed funding, was for businesses that were focusing on learning AI. Like, how are they going to get this in the marketplace? And so it's obviously a need. I just don't know if businesses have the discipline enough to crack the code on how to do that, right? Let's see. Cool. I'd love to chat as I have a non-AI startup that needs funding. I'm always happy to chat. Many of you have reached out. I just had a very cool call this week with one of you about an AI, an automotive industry vertical SaaS system, which is super cool. So always happy to advise. You can book I think it's in my link in my bio, or you can DM me and I'll send you a calendar link. So yes, my leadership team could be replaced by AI. Like which one? All of them, right? We gather here, but another option would be good. I'm only allowed on front end and green screens. Cool. We are Copilot or nothing. Yeah, in the DoD sphere currently. Yeah, and I think a lot of people have gone that route, and I'm not at all saying it's a bad thing. I'm just kind of saying like it's kind of like going to, I live in Western Colorado. We have a lot of peach orchards here, right? So it's kind of like taking them to an orchard and being like, you can only pick peaches that are 12 inches or bigger, right? Sorry, I don't know the metric system over there, so give me a break. It's like, well, why can't I have this peach too? It's the same peach, it tastes the same way, right? I eat it the same way. And it doesn't make a lot of sense in that. But I can see that. I think what I see mostly is after Copilot has been in the organization for 12 months, people are really, one, confused by the pricing because it's impossible to understand. And then two, right, they've spent millions on unused Copilot seats, and people are not, no, it's not a high adoption. And so they're overspending on this bloated tool that they thought was going to be a game changer. I've never really seen anyone use Copilot effectively. That doesn't mean that they don't, right? It just means that I've never seen anyone really get the bang for their buck on that. So let's see. I'd guess Fortune 500 companies have COBOL in mission critical functions. I would agree with you. I would agree with you. And I bet they have Stu that knows how to work it that is going to retire next year, and nobody else knows what they're going to do after that. I tried to get a girl promoted to be an AI champion, and the business balked. Well, they sound stupid. That business sounds stupid because I love that you did that, right? There needs to be training around what the executives even want out of AI, 100%. They just tell everyone how to use it, but how and why. Exactly. And not only like how and why, but the underlying, like, what is in it for me, right? So I talked to a business the other day. They're in one of those buckets that they're too specific for an ERP system, right? They could get one, but then they need something on top of it. And that happens to the industries I support a lot of time because there's so much complexity in their manufacturing process. But they're worried that this complexity is going to affect their overall business, because we're talking to like forklift drivers here. That doesn't mean they're not smart or super valuable, but it's not a role that typically touches a lot of technology. So you got to, explain to the operator, like, what is the point of this self-driving forklift? It's not something they've used it before. So you got to really get in there. And if you want them to use it, explain it to them. So I own my own company, and I could be replaced by AI. A lot of times I wish I was replaced by some things in AI for sure. Let's see. Let's see. Linda in accounting takes photos with her phone and just sends it to ChatGPT. 100%. When I was at the Women in Manufacturing conference, the number one thing I heard about AI is their need for it to fix machines, right? They send this in on the manufacturing floor. They take a picture with their phone, upload it to AI and say, what's wrong with this machine? And I was like, oh my God, like, this is such an opportunity for businesses to fill this gap, like software businesses. But two, like, I can't believe they're using it for that, because most of my clients would be like terrified to do that, but honestly, it's a great way to be able to understand that, because those techs take weeks to get out there, especially if it's a specialized piece of equipment, right? Fair. I would say you could start with replacing IT leadership in its entirety. That's so interesting. I would go the other way around. I would say you could replace like a CFO with AI. Not all CFOs, right? Like, I want to be so specific, but like the head of accounting, you could potentially start to like flag those things. So let's see. Any thoughts on Canva point two announcements yesterday in Canva Create? I don't have, that's not really my wheelhouse. Again, I'm more in complex manufacturing, but if anybody else has that on the creative side, we'd love to hear your thoughts too, Amy, of course. The bearded COBOL owners are fully retired and most are in the ground. You got to DM me, because I need you to meet our CEO. He is he talks about this all the time. And I mostly just like, my eyes glaze over and I'm like, what are you talking to? So we're in heavy manufacturing, so we call it heavy industry. So that could be anything from mining, metals, biopharma, medical device manufacturing. We've got food and beverage for a lot of those different pieces. So anything that is very incredibly complex, we actually just we have a few fringe clients here and there, but the more complex, the better. But that's what we focus in. Also found out Travelers makes $6 billion profit yearly. The insurance company I'm at. That's awesome, right? Lights switched off in my hiding spot. Oh no. Let's see. And are you willing to take the risk, the forklift getting hacked? Right, like just flying all over the place. We did a self-driving train. That's a massive piece of equipment. It could literally bust through the wall if it got crazy like that. And you've seen like those humanoid robots, those super creepy ones that if they are glitching, they have this crazy, like their arms are moving all nuts. Like that happens. And you have to like not get completely shocked by that, but you got to test those edge cases to know like if the crane is going nuts on the manufacturing floor, how do we shut it off immediately? Like pull the power cord, as we call it, right? For the person asking about Nets, we add this. It's integrated with Shopify Plus, right? Yes, absolutely. That's a good one. He does have a beard. You'd be happy to know. I mean, we're in rural Colorado. Beards are required. So you'd find value checking out both of those together. I think that's great for you, Andrew, right? She knows what she's talking about for sure. Let's see. Not uniquely different. We're back to Canva in pros and cons for other tools. So extreme in the positioning, though. It's work to sort out fact from hype. And that is so true. And I think that's true with any sort of AI, right? Especially in this billion-dollar marketing machine, especially now that Canva is getting crowded by ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT or other incumbent AI systems are learning to do that. Maybe you don't need Canva as much anymore. And then they start to get like rash and like, this is going to be the best thing that you've ever seen. It's like, just be honest with us. Like, what does it do from a functioning position if we're a Canva user, right? But trying to attract these new users. And we see that in core enterprise products as well, right? Let's see. Is this the start of Skynet? Oh my gosh, probably, right? And are there enough audit trails where AI, you can track exactly where it went wrong? Absolutely, 100%. And does your staff know how to do that, right? Kyler and I have joked about at length about ERPs, many of the same ones. But yeah, she's in retail. She introduced me to a lot of her fancy friends, and they call me and they're like, hey, we do these very fancy bags and things like that. And I'm like, cool, I'm the least you're my Patagonia, right? I'm the least fancy person on the planet, but I can absolutely do the tech for that, right? Oh, librarian jokes. It's been way too long since our librarian jokes. We were already at the half hour mark. Come on, you guys. Let's see. 6, 7. My 7-year-old would be so impressed with this. Like, let's see. So I think and the start of Skynet is, a big piece of that. I think I used to do a talk on the Women in Tech conversations where it's about the Terminator effect. And I, broke down if they actually used good data governance and practices around, finding Sarah Connor. I took some Zyrtec. Don't worry about it, you guys. It snowed here today and it was like 80 degrees. So my allergies are nuts, right? But that's the point of that conversation, is making sure that we understand what we're buying, right? I work for a Big Four firm, and one of our meetings, they keep saying disruptors and disruption. Oh, they've got to like get with the program. That's really like giving like 2021, right? Like we've done that. We've been disruptors, right? And I can promise you, I'd bet my salary on it, that no Big Four firm is disrupting anything, right? They might be, making a ton of money off of their legacy incumbent business, but there's no disruption at that level. Let's see. Brand equity marketing. Let's see. Oh yeah. Yep. Funny you mentioned that. It's the massive Chinese surveillance system is called Skynet. I don't know anything about that, but happy to do that, right? Happy to talk about conspiracy theories. They say they have 1/4 of a billion users. Oh my gosh, that made my day. That's so funny. Let's see. What specifically? Let's see. Can't make it up, and it's not a conspiracy. Yeah, it's definitely surveillance tech is a very interesting one. It's been a lot of the funding I've looked at. They've been commercializing that. So how do you surveil your kids, your babies, all of those different things? Let's see. When businesses start testing AI, are they using it in operations or just exploring? And I think the exploratory budgets, at least from the businesses I've seen, are gone, right? We've got to prove value to shareholders, especially, with the squeeze kind of in the marketplace, right? So let's see. I'm moving from Deloitte to Accenture as of June. Same poison, distant bottle. Yes, absolutely. Same poison, but they better be paying you more. And get your bag. Get your bag. And then, retire and come out of it and work for the good side like us. So, do you know what the social credit score is? I have no idea. Maybe I should. Are they disrupting, though? Disrupting the government when their AI is hallucinating reports to the government? I mean, you could call that a disruption. I don't think that's what they were going for in that point, but they absolutely could be disrupting. I have a non-AI startup, and am I cooked in terms of funding? Absolutely not. Can you tell me what you do, though? Give me your pitch. AI knowledge is useless unless you know how to turn that into stock investments. And that's kind of what they talk about, the Salesforce SaaSpocalypse conversation, right? And that's what they're trying to rush into. And that's why Canva is saying stupid shit. Like, we have 1/4 of a billion customers. Like, that is embarrassing to put in there. That's absolutely embarrassing, right? Just say how many customers you have, right? Let's see. So which Oracle product do you think will perish in a dumpster fire first? My Wish X store. I don't know, right? I mean, they've been trying to get rid of JD Edwards, which I'm a huge JD fan, for years now, right? How do we get cooler heads in decision-making positions? I feel like the crazies are in charge, right? I think so. They absolutely are. And they're the first, right, to get on this hype cycle because they want to be the first. They want to, and a lot of times their bonus depends on it, right? And that is definitely something that we need to really cool down. I think it's with money talks, right? So like if we have these SaaS systems, like, yeah, that's super cool, but we're going to do a total cost of ownership analysis of like, how much does this actually cost, right? And then pull out some of those marketing threads and then be able to really showcase, like, does this mean anything to us? Absolutely not, right? So that's the biggest piece I see is in that business case of like, they don't understand how much it's going to cost. A lot of times, like even for those AI platforms, right? These agent platforms, they require specific integration. That integration costs you to buy another platform. Oh, and by the way, there's no competitive bid to that platform. It's just one platform and you pay what you pay, right? So they don't understand that. And all of a sudden we're 5 million down the road, like I gave you with that Copilot example, where we paid millions and we thought this was saving us money. And that's really where we get in this trap of SaaS costs us less, because it most certainly does not, right? You can spend responsibly, right? But it most certainly does not. So in 3D animation industry, we have a collaborative review problem. Oh, cool. I'd love to hear more about that. I have no idea what that means, but it sounds super cool. I feel like people don't talk enough about the strategy around architecture with AI to optimize token usage. Is AI really a strategy if everyone is using it? I don't know. Is it? Like, I think it depends on the business and how much you're paying for it. I'm making a Figma app for 3D collaboration. Very cool. Very cool. Let's see. So I have worked, is it DARPA? Is that right? I don't know what that is. And so the gap from public to commercial is vast. Absolutely. I agree with that statement. I'm starting a role leading AI adoption of Copilot for a Fortune 500 student. Any tips on starting it out? I would say, first of all, how much are we spending on Copilot? Like that's got to be the first piece of it. And then quantifying how much are we going to get as far as efficiencies, and all of those different pieces when it comes to Copilot. Do people actually understand what Copilot does? I think the biggest thing I see with Copilot is overspending on bloat licenses, right? Not everyone, like as we're saying in the comment, needs a Copilot license. Buy the license that the users make sense, right? These people are actually going to use it. Prove success that way. And that's going to be your biggest evidence, right? Is influence from the organization of say, hey guys, these 10 users were able to achieve X, Y, and Z's efficiencies. They did X, Y, and Z project. Isn't that cool? That's going to be way more influential than people being like, you need to use Copilot today. And people be like, especially at that size of a company, right? So I hope that helps. Love your tagline. Thank you. Appreciate you. So the source code to Claude was leaked about a week ago, and it's out there now. Our AI engineers told me about that, so they'll chime in here. Let's see. Don't push a tool at problems people don't feel like they have. Right? Do you think it could be a real value add for SaaS for a real issue? I mean, if there is a real issue, and if somebody else does that in the marketplace, like what's your exit strategy? Are you trying to get acquired? Like what does that look like? And mapping that out. I also say the big thing I see on, pre-seed funding is people can't map out their revenue model in SaaS. So how are you going to make money? And has it been implemented before? Even if you don't have a paid implementation, are real people using it? And do you have results from that? Let's see. Nothing quite like a case study for validation. Absolutely. Identify early adopters and skeptics. I will say one area of Microsoft excels in being the guy as the platform. Absolutely. That's so a way to say that. I might have to steal that. It's about what all of you, right? Like, so it's about what we're working for. And let's see, I'm looking for pre-seed right now mainly to build up MVP and run tests. I think you can do that without funding too, right? Give it to industry experts, beta test it. So all of that. Once you are in Microsoft, like a gaming system, great graphics. Absolutely. That's so well put. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Copilot right now. It's like, oh, come on, guys. You already have Microsoft. You have to remember only about 3% of Microsoft customers, according to industry analysts, are paying for Copilot, right? So just because it's Microsoft doesn't always mean it works. We have the same conversation with D365 as an ERP system. I'm not at all saying it's not a great ERP system, but just because you have Microsoft M365 does not at all mean you need any sort of Microsoft core operating platform if it's not the right fit for you. Right? We just had a client that bought D365 as an ERP system before we were talking to them years ago, and they found out that they actually needed an MES system, a manufacturing execution system, right? And so that was leaked because of human error, and there was a lot of security breakdowns. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't know what you're saying in the comments, but I am cute. Thank you. Oh my God. Without great games, Microsoft is killing it in retail, grocery tech. Yeah, especially that. So I think G365 is a great system, right? As long as you know how to manage it. I think Microsoft, where they really struggle is their implementer network. Some are really good, some are really shitty, right? So it depends on where you are and depends on your industry, right? The ones that we can find for you. But you need to work that like, a dating system, right? So like, you got to know your system integrator is going to show up for you. And that's where they really struggle with that is they have some really good ones and they have some really, really bad ones. So that people like us, right, is is going to match you with someone who's going to be there. And they've started to do a lot of offshore work, blah, blah, blah. I could go on for years because it is a passion point for me. D365 is a good system if they just treated like their users like they matter. And that's really where it just gets me going, right? Plus, big pieces of tech I implement are used at a very fragmented level. So it's that interoperability tool. Well, definitely let's set up some time to talk about it. Happy to, right? Let's see, it's in the delivery, folks. Yep, 100%. Find implementation agencies with some industry vet. Microsoft Pinball. I think you want to, so when we're looking at SIs, right, especially, right, and it's vertical specific veterans, absolutely. And a lot of times, like the vertical specific piece of it is going to be so critical, especially with something that serves every industry with like D365. We're not looking at something that just services one area, right? It's so big. You need someone that knows how to configure it for your vertical and what you want to use it for, right? Oh my God, you're live. Oh, I'm so happy you're here, right? Are you talking about, yeah, so let's see, launch OneNote or Copilot notebook? Oh, did we have a question about one of those? Sorry. Sometimes I miss them. I wish I could like formulate them better so that we could go over these questions, but I don't know anything about Copilot notebook, so hopefully someone in our comments or our engineers that are smarter than me can answer your question because they're in there as well. So, but that's a good way to really break down what that means, because now we're, pulling back Copilot, right? We're peeling back the onion, if you will, of saying like, what do we actually need it to use for or not? I'm more on the pricing side and things like that. So let's see. What's the yap about? Do you see my sticker? It made my entire day, right? So I finally figured out how to put topics on my live, but we're talking about AI versus reality. We're talking about a lot of different people. I've loved that you brought these conversations into social media. I love that you guys are here, right? I'm just, the catalyst with the platform, but really it's a lot of times me saying, I don't know what that is, and you guys filling in the gaps. So you're just as important as I am. So when we're looking at these types of things, I think that the main themes that we talked about today, right, is how much does it cost, right? And what does it do, right? That is one of the biggest things. Oh, well, you're not one of the luxury brands reaching out to Kyler. Really? That's not her, right? What's your use case, right? What is your use case, right? Start with a large document. You constantly reference, and that is the birthplace of requirements, right? I talked to a business this week that's going through, it's a large public sector entity that's going through a new implementation, and a lot of times we're talking about like, how do we get our requirements, and people overcomplicate that. Like, I don't want you to think that requirements are easy. They're not easy, and someone else cannot do them for you, right? They can give you a process to gather requirements and take you through them, not the vendor, right? Because the vendor's going to make those requirements all tainted and biased and yucky because now they want you to buy their system, right? And they're trying to Jedi mind trick you into thinking that like these requirements are actually going to be a piece of that system. But that's where we start, is with, a big spreadsheet that you guys utilize. And a lot of people are embarrassed about that, and it really shouldn't be, right? So getting our requirements are going to be the main way that we're going to ensure we're not overspending, right? And that's going to be a huge piece of that we really are going to see blow up here in the next 12 months, because people don't understand what they're spending on these, and they're signing contracts that are trapping them into a 3-month deal with a 20% maintenance fee increase year over year, and they just didn't know that, right? So let's see. Can unions push back against implementations? Yeah, they absolutely can. Yeah. So a lot of, like, especially in the metals work we do union avocation or a variety of different things so that we can bring everyone to the table, but they absolutely can. Yes. Let's see. So Notebook, this is from one of our engineers. Notebook is good for synthesizing large docs, iterating it into a single piece of work over multiple sessions without re-uploading and comparing docs. Thank you for that. What systems should companies keep, and which should they be okay with making themselves with AI? That's going to totally depend on their analysis, right? So a lot of times people want to replace everything with AI, especially their old green screen COBOL legacy system, right? Because it's dusty and crusty and people hate it, and their younger employers are like, what the hell is this thing? And it's not sexy, it's not cute in the organization, but a lot of times it's not broken, right? So should we modernize? Is there fundamental functions in this that's a problem? Or is there a level at which we can still utilize what we have and then put agents in a different area of the business or things like that? So if it's costing us money, right? If there's a core mission critical function that it cannot achieve, right? It's going to break tomorrow and we can't fix it and the vendor doesn't support it anymore and we don't have the in-house talent to do that, then that's a core issue, right? It's going to shut down production. But other than that, if just you don't like it or you don't know how to work it, or you think that all grown-up companies, I talked to a lot of mid-market companies that are like 500 million in revenue and are like, we need SAP to be a big company. It's like, absolutely not. You absolutely do not need SAP. If SAP works for you, that's cool. But if it doesn't, right, that's something that is a totally different story. I think being okay with AI is going to be a situation, and are their fundamentals okay, right? Are their processes okay? Is their data okay? And then that allows them to kind of build the house on a strong foundation. Make shit simple and make it make sense. Don't hire AI people, learn it internally. I couldn't agree with that more. I can't tell you the amount of people that come to me being like, we have software engineers, we need AI engineers. And it's like, no, you really don't, right? You need to invest more in your DevOps team. You need to listen to them and learn from them, right? Let's see. Given some Andrew. I love Andrew. So yeah, he's our core nerd that we've made in here. So do you have thoughts that you can share on professional services automation out there? Let me think about that, and then I'll message you because I've got some notes on it, but I don't have them like right in front of me on the top of my head. I'll find you on LinkedIn and unmask. Great team here. Would love to connect outside of the team chat. So speaking of that, we do have our LinkedIn live at 8:30 today. So 8:30 Mountain Time, 10:30 Eastern Time here in the United States. So if you want to hear more from our delivery team, you can absolutely head over and watch us there. These lives are great because you make them great, right? And that's a big piece of it. We go live usually every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm so sorry I had to bail on you guys again. When I'm doing funding, I take that very, very seriously. So if I need a little extra more time to give founders feedback and things like that, I take it. So I'm sorry about that. But typically, and next week we'll be live. Maybe we need to add some morning lives because this was a very fun group. So if you guys like that, please, let us know. Because we don't typically do lives this early. They're in the afternoon, but if we like the morning, I mean, I'm an early riser right here. So absolutely, I'm down for that. Does current AI companies' valuation match their revenue? No. How more? And let me just do this real quick. I was just step on my soapbox. Their real revenue or their fake revenue? Because some of them that I review, it's like we're going to be in a $80 million company, yet we've only made 5,000 in revenue. It's like, I think we're stretching. And partnerships are important, right? Pipeline is important, but reality is also very important in those types of things. So has anyone changed how they work because of AI? I love that. Sending profitable vibes your way in the funding discussions. Oh, thank you. I don't look for outside funding. I review and provide, right? So don't have a LinkedIn, never needed one. Andrew, you need a LinkedIn. Be a grown-up. Come on. So I know LinkedIn sucks. We're the first to say that, but lucky you. Not at all. They spend more money than they make, but trust me, bro, I'm good for it. Hey, Dr. Fonz. Just a little quick shout out to my friends. If you don't follow him, EdTech Genius right there. So I sent you a message. You got to message me back. If you didn't, I sent you a crazy video on like teenage hackers in education. It was wild, right? Let's see. All right, friends. We're going to pack it up. My kids have no school because they go to a fancy private school and they don't ever go to school. So I'm going to make sure they're alive. And then I'll see you guys over on LinkedIn at 8:30 if you're able to join. So I've never actually, I love you, Andrew. You're like, this is your first day on earth. And it's just the best thing I love about you. So, all right, friends, I will catch you next week. And I'll see you over on LinkedIn if you join us there. Otherwise, I hope you have a great weekend.